You are listening to A Chatter of Fact, and again, these are not interviews. They are conversations, and I have a treat. You're an internet sensation. I'm going to say it. Does anybody say that to your face? Like, hey.
Not at all. Not an internet sensation.
Well, they should, because you are. Folks, this is Kevon Carter. I've been lucky enough to work with him once and meet him and spend some time with him as singing partners and friends, and that was just... And
let's be clear. I sang backup. For Robby, I sang backup. I was a background singer for him.
You were overqualified backup singer for any of that stuff, man. But anyway, you're the first thing, that was such a big gig we did way back when for the McDonald's company, thanks to Mr. Jeff Morrow. That was a ridiculous gig. Ridiculous.
Shout out to Jeff Morrow. Thank you for that paycheck.
Thank you,
My
Jeff.
God.
Yeah, you gotta come on. You gotta give us another McDonald's paycheck, Jeff.
Yes.
Where's that at?
Yes.
But before, so anyway, you guys are going to learn a lot about this gentleman. He's incredibly talented. He's incredibly witty. He has found one of the most unique niche. It's always said in different ways, potato, but he's found his own corner of the internet, especially for what I see on Instagram and YouTube, that has become very, very popular. It's funny, I look at your Instagram and I see that you're followed by celebrities that I follow. But we're going to get into that real quick. We're going to get into a story, so stick around. Just hold on, people. Real quick, I should say, though, like on your Instagram handle, how would people find that? Or YouTube?
Just my name, Instagram.com, Kevon Carter.
Okay.
Just my name.
All right, good to know. All right. Speaking of name, I should switch my name here. I see it's under my wife. I'm just going to... So, first off, man, where in the world were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Well, Janice, no, I was born in Harvey, Illinois.
Really? Home of the Dells, man.
Yeah, right. Born in Harvey. Now, see, I just listened to your song, so you can't say the Dells, because I just heard your single, and I heard that old school flavor you brought right there.
You did give it a listen. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and that second verse, man, you brought it on that second verse. That's he's showing out now.
Okay. A little something. You know what's funny is there's a group called, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis had this small group that they brought up for a second named Solo. I got heaven right here on earth.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And I always remember they broke down the second verse and kind of opened it up. And I remember thinking I like one of these days I'll do that.
Okay.
And
you opened it up on that second verse.
I was trying to say a little something, and you could get the vibe of it, because when people ask me about that new tune, I'm always saying oh man, I wanted to write something that sounded like it was written in 1968.
Yeah, no, you captured it. Definitely has that throwback sound.
Oh man, well hearing that from you, man, I take that as a huge any compliment from you vocally. Because like I said, seriously, when I first met you and I were part of, basically, it felt like a cattle call, I don't know how many dudes auditioned for that. And folks, you might have heard me talk about this way back when we had Derek Fawcett on. Derek was a guest one time.
Hey, Derek.
Whew. A ridiculously big gig for a big company. There are a lot of celebrities in there. We had a cool trailer. Do you remember the trailer?
Yep.
Yeah. And we all had great rooms. But I remember right from the get-go being surrounded. It was an a cappella group that they threw together, and I was surrounded by some of the best singers I've ever heard in my life, and you're one of the best singers I'd ever heard. Man, your tone, your control, your knowledge, man, just really, really good,
Great singers. I mean, and like you said, everybody in there was just, great singers. It was a great time, man.
And we'll probably get into this a little more as we chat, man, but the most important factor there, too, was the demeanor of everybody. Everybody was so cool and laid back because, man, we all run into the egos, Entertainment and egos kind of go hand in hand too much sometimes.
Yeah, no egos. I think you and Chris, or Pastor Chris, you guys are doing most of the leads, and even with lead singers, you can kind of have some egos and battles, and then, or you could have had me in the background. But like, man, nobody gave me a solo. But like I said, you didn't have any of that. Everybody played their part, and I think that's why it came off so good.
I kind of wish you would have just like, no, I'm going to riff on every background part I have. There's a brilliant. Oh man, so folks, I need to try to convey what Kevon does, because I see you on Instagram, but I know you're all over YouTube as well. It's the same videos, the same product. Yeah. But man, it's comical, it's smart, it's musical, it's entertaining. And when I was saying that you found a corner that nobody else could find, it's because not many people could do what you do. There are funny people who can kind of play an instrument or kind of sing, and you see that shine through. Or they're just great, musicians and great singers that just do that might be a little funny. But man, your funny bone is you've got that dialed in. You're very funny, you're very clever. But the things that you do musically with your comedy, nobody else could do. Not in the comedy world, because nobody's as accomplished as you are as a musician. And man, again, I want to dissect it a little bit, but people, look for Kevon Carter, because you're going to hear, the most amazing thing that I think has become the thing that we're all fans of when we hear you, is you'll take something, whether it's a kid getting a shot at a doctor's office, the one lady who broke into the Capitol but wanted to try to act like she was the victim, and she's like, oh, and I got maced.
I got maced.
You will find chords to back up the weird sounds that people are making, mm-hmm. and it's so perfect. It's picture perfect. And then so that musical side is so solid and so impressive. I mean, most people couldn't do that. And then this persona that you've developed, which everybody loves. As soon as you do, so somebody's whining or crying, and Kevon can put the chords behind them, sometimes harmonies, and then he's cheering them on. So it's not, what I like about it, your humor's not cruel. You're doing this, go on, do it. It's the most unique thing, and I want to break all that down, man. I want to, we're going to dissect you,
Okay, let's go.
Yeah, so let's do this. All right, so first off, you were born in Harvey. Where did the singing bug come from? Because you're such a talented singer, man.
The singing bug, I grew up in church. So my mom was a choir director. My dad was a minister of music, so he played the piano and he sang. So I guess, just being around music all the time, being in church, that's where the singing came from. And I would sing. I didn't think I was a singer. I didn't think I was a Robby.
Really?
But I.
Man, because you got a voice.
Man.
Was there something though? Was there somebody in the church or a vocalist or anybody that kind of inspired you?
Inspired. I just think because I grew up around it, and then I was a huge Michael Jackson fan. So yeah, I was a huge Michael Jackson fan. I used to try to dance like him when I was little, and then of course you get older, just the songs. So, but yeah, I just think I just grew up around music. Like I said, my dad was, he was teaching music, so he's always listening to songs, and my mom's listening to songs because she has to direct it. So, I guess it just kind of was already in me.
I equate you so much with the religious side of music. I got to know then, there's got to be like one or two Michael Jackson cuts that like still speak to you. Is there something that still, as soon as it's on, it's going to stay on and like, oh, that's my jam?
Well, yeah. Well, all of Michael Jackson's songs are classics. And even his songs, they were not church songs, but I always say like a lot of his songs felt churchy.
They would go there.
Yeah, and especially Michael Jackson, his ad-libs, when he would do the ad-libs on certain songs, like he would really go. And he was like, man, this feels like church. He's going so hard. And sometimes he would use choir as backgrounds. So yeah, I'm still to this day, I'm a huge Michael Jackson fan.
Yeah, it's weird because he never really speaks about too much of those influences, or he didn't, when he did interviews. But man, when you think about the "Gonna Make a Change," that totally went to church.
Yeah, very, very, very soulful, and then even stuff that was not church at all. Like what way you making me feel, dun, dun, dun.
Just
And like this ad libs and stuff, dun, 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 dun. Yeah, all that stuff. That's church.
so that,
Hallelujah. You know, you. So yeah, that's what I mean when I say it kind of had a church feel to it, but real soulful.
man, I never even thought of that with that tune. I never saw that connection before. So then, did you start taking actual like piano lessons early on?
I took lessons. Well, of course, my dad played piano. I couldn't take lessons from my dad because my dad was my dad, and my dad was tough. So he would be, he would fuss at me, and if I do something wrong and I get an attitude with him, it's just the whole father-son thing. So I ended up getting lessons at the local mall. They had a piano store in there, and I think that was my first taste of piano lessons. I might have been 5 or 6.
Oh wow!
And so I didn't start doing like church gospel music till later. I started learning how to read music at the mall.
How old or how long did you take the lessons?
I took lessons for a few years. I think I started 5 or 6. I would do the recitals every year, and maybe stopped about maybe 12, 13, maybe, I think.
So when you always get through that one point in any kind of lessons, especially with an instrument though, where you could see where it's going to start getting difficult, and that's that one crossroad, where okay, this isn't always going to be fun because now I got to work to learn whether it's theory or whatever else, to nail it down. Mm-hmm. Did you come across that in the midst of lessons or after lessons? Did you just not stop with your own personal education of it?
Well, I was doing, like I said, I was reading for years, and then I didn't get gospel and playing by ear. I didn't really get that till later. I think I started kind of getting into that when I was about maybe high school age, 13, 14, and then I stopped doing classical. I would say I stopped more because I was lazy. And once I learned how by ear, it was easier for me. And it was, it was fun. So I kind of more gravitated to that. The lessons thing, I think I was just kind of more so lazy more than anything else. And I didn't appreciate it until later on, the fact that I learned how to read. And then, but when I got to college, I noticed I was really good at sight reading. Like if you put music in front of me and then in front of the other piano majors, I can hang.
Okay. 3
weeks later, I was the worst one there.
What? Because
everybody else, they practiced their music. Me, I hadn't looked at it since the first day. So that was I always tell everybody, I always encourage everybody, if you can get private lessons, learn, even if you learn how to do by ear, learn how to read music. If you can do both, it's so much better. And so.
We always talk about this on the show, how the people who are truly trained and then also have that kind of, whatever it is, whether you're singing in clubs or something, mm-hmm. or you're using your ear a lot, whoever has the combination of both are, mm-hmm. The most dangerous cats in the world,
Yeah, it just opens more doors for you, more opportunities. And I love theory once I understood it. And then once I understood how I can apply the theory to what I was playing, I was loving it. So I would hear people like, "Oh, theory is this," and I loved it.
Really,
bring it up, because once I saw like, okay, he's talking about this, and I can apply it to this, and okay, now it's helping me understand what I'm playing, and then it helped me to develop new chords, and it's like, wow, okay, I like this. So I love theory class.
Did you study music in college?
I studied music, and I do not have, folks be lying about their degrees and stuff. I do not have a degree in music, but I went for, I think I may have done it 2.5, 3 years as a music major.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then,
ultimately I ended up, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, ultimately what? Go ahead.
No, ended up getting a degree in ministry. But I did three years, so I went through theory 1, theory 2, 3, 4, voice lessons, all that good stuff. Because I was a music ed major, so I learned how to play the baritone and different instruments and all that stuff. So
when you're doing that, when you first started studying music, what was the goal at that time? Where were you hoping to go with that when you first started studying music?
When I went to college?
Yeah.
Honestly, I went to college because that's what you do. You know, so
Yeah.
I probably didn't. My maturity wise, I probably should have went to a community college, or just because so I went to college just to say I was going to college.
Okay.
So, you know, because you mess around all high school, and then now it's time to go to college. You see people, okay, I'm going to Florida State, or I'm going to Notre Dame, and you sit here like, man, I don't have nowhere to go. Let me get on the internet. Let me find a music school. Okay, I'm going to Vandercook. I'm going to, So yeah, that's why I went to college, because that's just
what you do.
Yeah, that from what I understood, that's what you're supposed to do after high school. You go to college and you get a job. So I went for music ed, but that really wasn't thought out. Like I said, I think I was just doing that so I could look like I had my life together. And I went to college and got exposed and found out that I still didn't have my life together.
Did your dad was a minister, or?
No, he was not a minister, but he was over the music department.
Okay.
And in a lot of churches, they'll call the head of the music department the minister of music or something. So,
I see.
But no, he was not a preacher or anything.
Man, so that was just always in your life then.
The music portion.
The music and that kind of marriage between music and church.
Yeah, that's always been in my life. They tell me stories of how when my dad played the piano, and like you say, how did you get into it? I don't remember this stuff, but they tell me I would sit next to my dad on the piano bench when I was a little kid. And so yeah, I've just always been around it. So
there's a magical presence. My dad was always singing, and then he quit for like 16 years. But when I was in grade school, he came back, and so I was older, 7th, 8th grade. But I just wanted to be a part of it. It wasn't even, it was partially the musical side and singing, but just the camaraderie, and it was just like a cool club I wanted to be a part of, and they're laughing and just enjoying the whole thing, man. So that's interesting to me, because then when you get in the ministry side of things, so then when you after college, were you able to dive right into work in the ministry department, or what was
after? So I got into the ministry part through music, because I was always doing music, so I was playing, and everybody knew me to be the musician. And then folks started to kind of see like, hey, you actually can sing a little bit. So then I would sing a little bit, and then you can teach a little bit, and then I ended up teaching a little bit. So that just doors kept opening one after another. And then I went from organist to a choir director, this and that, and then I was the minister of music at one church. And of course, just being around there, working in ministry, being around preachers and different things, and just getting exposed to God and the Word of God, I received a call on my life. So, and then that just kind of, and I'm still on that journey now. So,
how old were you when you felt like you really knew, after giving lessons and then still being kind of tied to the church musically? Like, how old were you when you realized, okay, this is where I'm going to stay too. Like, this is where I'm going to keep growing and building my career.
Musically or church wise?
Both, in a way. Like, because now it's kind of together, right? It's just sort of a package deal for you.
Well, musically, I would say you just kind of know, because that was how I made money. In high school, everybody had their, when you turn 16, you get your jobs. You work at the mall, you work at McDonald's, you work at Burger King. I played the piano. And I was able. That's how I made money, and then even through college.
Where were you working? Like at 16, where were you playing?
We're playing at churches.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing at churches. I ended up playing for a few community choirs, and praise God, they were paying me a little bit of money. So, and of course, you 16 years old, you don't need much. So I had 16. I was probably making. I think my first payment from a church, I think I was getting what was I getting? I think I thought I was so rich. I think I was getting $150 a month. Oh my goodness! You couldn't tell me I wasn't rich.
When you're 16, that's all you need back then.
I think I was getting $150 a month, and and then if I had a little girlfriend, I would go to the store and buy a candy. I buy as many Jolly Ranchers as she wanted because I had it like that. I had the money, so. Yeah.
I like that. That's the thing. All the Jolly Ranchers. Give me all the Jolly Ranchers.
Yeah, whatever you want. I got the money. I'm making $150 a month.
You want red? You want lemon? You want cherry? Whatever Jolly Rancher you want. Watermelon? Watermelon was my jam, by the way. The watermelon Jolly Rancher. Forget
watermelon.
It. That was the one.
Okay. Yeah, that was the one.
Which is funny because they all taste so fake. But to me, I'm like, yeah, but I like the fake watermelon is real.
I think I was a lemon man myself.
Really?
I think they had a lemon flavor. Yeah,
all right. See, man, now we're getting deep. See, this is the stuff.
Right. But yeah, so that's how, that was how I made ends meet. And then in high school, and even I've always been able to make money to sustain myself through music. So that was a no-brainer. Like, I got to stick with this music some kind of way.
Yeah.
The ministry piece, that just kind of came. A lot of people, when they become preachers and different things like that, is because their father was a preacher and their grandfather was a preacher and their great-grandfather, all that kind of stuff. I didn't grow up like that. So that just kind of came out of nowhere. And I'm like, well. And it was nothing I never want to be a preacher. I never want to work in a church like that,
But when you suddenly lean into like ministry in school, what had you kind of start leaning toward those classes and that curriculum?
I felt the call, and I remember I went to my pastor at the time, and I'm like, hey, pastor.
First you offered him a Jolly Rancher. First you're like, hey.
Right. How do you know that you're called to preach? What is it? Because I think, I think I might be. I feel something I don't know, So he sat down and talked to me, and at the church I was at, everyone there, they were really big on education and going to school and going to seminary and different things. So eventually, because I did not go straight, then it took years, but eventually I went back to school because I'm like, okay, I don't know exactly where this will lead, but I know I'm called to do something. So let me educate myself. Let me prepare myself. And I loved it. I loved that more than I loved the music classes, which was a shock to me. So that's when I knew, like, this might be, because I loved the seminary classes and all that good stuff.
Man, since we're going to focus so much on your music, then I want to delve into that a little bit. Like, what was it that you loved so much? Do you remember? Like, how did it move you in the midst of studying it?
I don't know. I just think it was a connection and a spiritual thing, because I'm not a school person. I've always despised school. Like, but I enjoyed it. Yeah. And I enjoyed learning. And again, I enjoyed that more than I did learning, doing the music. Wow. And I think sometimes with music, and you can attest to it, we've been doing music all our lives. So not that you get tired of it, but sometimes it's kind of just cool when it's something else.
Yeah.
I just think it was something just deeper and a spiritual thing, because I'm like, I don't believe this. I'm in school and I like it. and I'm paying attention. And I'm doing my homework. What's wrong with me?
So then, when you get out of school, where are you looking? Like, are you looking first and foremost, to be a working musician in a church, or were you like, what was working out after school then?
Well, I was at that time I was a full-time minister of music, so I had that. The ministry piece, that was just to prepare myself and educate myself, and it's kind of like, we'll see what happens,
Yeah.
And it's just kind of been that way. I've been kind of moving to different places. I recently just accepted a position at a church as a youth pastor. So now I'm a youth pastor at a church.
What does that entail?
Well, you have the youth. You're 18 and below, and you are their pastor. You are over the different departments, under the youth umbrella. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big stretch for me. Only because I've been in church all my life, but I've always just been music. So this is something that's stretching me, and but I know this is where this journey is leading me, and we'll see what happens next.
So are you writing kind of like you're almost writing in a way like a lecture or a sermon that you'll present?
Well, yeah, right now we had our first, because of course COVID. So we had our first Bible study actually last week. The pastor, he told me, he said he wanted me to be me and think out the box. So he allowed me, and if you see my videos, you know, even though I'm a church guy, I can.
You think outside the box.
Yeah, right. I don't do things in the conventional way.
You do things in a very unique way, yet at the same time, it's accessible to anybody that watches it.
Yeah, right. And I try to do that, and even with the videos, there's always kind of like a message sometimes, or it's church humor. But then I understand that everybody that watches the videos is not church. You know, some people they're atheists, but they watch the videos, and I try to keep, so I don't, sometimes I'll just kind of go there, but you know, most of the time I'm not like beating you on the back with a Bible, like, here, you're gonna take this Jesus right now.
You're gonna take this Jesus. No, but it's true, man, and I think that's the problem with anybody in any walk of life, whether it's a mindset or whether it's a religion. I think people try to like beat their ideas into people and force feed it, and then you're only going to get resistance. Whereas when you do it like you do, with kind of a natural approach, and kind of like listen here, you know, I'm making this stew. If you would like to sample it, it's delicious, and if not, well, you can at least smell it if you're going to be around. And I think that gets more people, at least if they don't want to go all in. I think that gets more people even thinking about just the mindset or the ideas, you know, even if they're not going to go all in. I think that's what you do, you know.
Exactly, and that blesses me. I mean, I've had people message me, or I've had comments like, you know, I'm not a believer, or I don't believe in God, or I worship this, I do that, but it was something about that song you played, or when you played that piano, or like I felt something, or, you know, just little different things like that. And so when that happens, I don't say, well, if you confess right now in the name of Jesus, no, you just and let things happen, and you know.
Where did he get that bolt of lightning?
Right. So yeah, I understand that. I mean, in the same, like I say, I have some Democrats that watch. I have some Republicans that watch. You have all of those different things, and I like, or I wish, because it's not all the time, but I like when we can disagree or have different views, but still be cool.
Yeah.
I did a Trump video one time, and the person said, "I'm a Republican," but that thing was hilarious. That's the kind of stuff I love.
Nothing you do is vindictive, and I think that's the key. And right now we live in this world where it is attack.
Oh,
and you don't attack. You know, I kind of have the same. I never get political in anything that I post or anything, but even in my show, some of my shows are more conversational than others. If I'm doing one of my band shows, then it's just music. But I have some stripped down shows where there's more improv and a lot of talking to the crowd and jokes and stuff. And even then, I keep it middle of the road, and I'm not even. I think you and I might be similar in this. I'm not even trying to walk the tightrope. It just happens to be who I am, you know.
Right.
Because I don't know if you've had this, but I've had a couple people reach out to me and say, "Man, you have this platform and you have this fan base. You know, you should be speaking. Why are you saying? You know, you should." And I just thought, well, that just was never who I am. It's still not who I am. So what? That's actually by doing that, I actually become something I'm not. So it would be dishonest for me to do that, you know. And I don't know if you feel the same way. If that's just who you are.
Yeah, I can relate. And unfortunately, like, people are so sensitive right now, so on the edge. So it's like, what's vice president's name? He had the fly in his head.
Pence.
Yeah, Pence, yeah. Mike Pence. I did a song, and it was so silly, and it literally, it's a song about the fly just being in his head.
Right.
Nothing mean, nothing cruel, nothing political. I had people unfollow me. I had people say such and such. Oh, so we know what side you're on.
And you're like, I'm on the side of a dude speaking with a fly on his head is funny. That's not political at all.
And that's just how I go. Like, I don't care who it is. I've done T.D. Jakes. I've done Kirk Franklin. I wore a tight shirt one time, kind of poking fun at Kirk Franklin. And I love Kirk Franklin. I love T.D. Jakes. But if I see something that I think is funny, it's funny.
Well, first and foremost, nothing you do is an attack sort of mode. But yeah, if people were to look at your history before you did anything that was a little more secular, you were obviously well steeped in the world of the church, yet your original humor was all about the church, but it was never biting. And so if anybody could tell, like, the stuff you were making fun of was what you loved right from the get-go, and that message should come across. But unfortunately, you know, you and I are living in this world where it's tough. People are drawing lines in the sand, and you know, I'm coming out. I've just finished recording this song called "Don't Stand Still" that kind of speaks to that, where I'm saying, you know, put the device down, you know, no angry social clown, you know, it just kind of speaks to the way that everyone, now that they have these little devices, it's just attack, you know. I'm not a violent person, but I recently saw, lately there have been a lot of memes of a Mike Tyson quote where he says something along the lines of, you know, now that people now with their devices are just getting as rude as they want to be, you know, they're forgetting, you know, what it's like to maybe be in front of someone and to say something that might get you punched in the face. You know, it's something along those lines. And he's actually right. You know, that's the problem. You know, we live. And see, now I gotta almost like find it because there it is. This is a Mike Tyson quote. Social media made y'all way too comfortable with disrespecting people and not getting punched in the face for it. It's, you know, and I don't try to talk about violence, but that mindset of we can say whatever we want with our fingers now, and it's the filter's gone.
It gets deep, and I've seen people get bullied in the comments, or if they have a contrary opinion, like people jump on. It's like, hey, just like this is social media. It's social media, and when I do something, it's always just all in fun. I'm going to poke humor, and if it's something I think that's funny, or something that I know is kind of a hot topic, I'm going to try to see how I can put my spin on it. But it'll never be from a side of malice or just trying to tear somebody down. And but yeah, it comes with the territory, and it's funny because you can go to some of these comedy shows, and a comedian get on stage and look at you and call you the B word and say, you stinky mother, and folks will just laugh and everything. And then on social media, you post something and people just get so upset and riled up. It's like, why can't you laugh like you laughed at the comedy show when the man called you, you know?
I think it's cool, though, because you almost train your crowd, too, in a way. Because I have a couple of friends. I have one in particular who... he's a musician, and he gets so political and so angry on social media, and he's always saying, man, I don't know why I'm losing some gigs and losing some followers. And if you go to his page,
I know why you're losing them.
He's speaking these political rants, usually, this year it was about Trump, last year, the years before it was about other people, but bottom line, it's all political, and it's like 5 rants in a row with his comments, and then a million comments, and they're fighting, and then his 6th post is, hey, come out and see me at Joe's Shack, to sing.
And you gotta think in terms of, that's not a smart business move.
That's not smart. What I always say, what I try telling them is that, listen, man, we're entertainers, and our pages were set up as singers or entertainers, and that's what we promote. So you're doing a weird switcheroo on your crowd when you suddenly become angry political dude, and I can't fault an audience for getting mad or for unfollowing if I suddenly change who I am and what I am. That's not what that post is for. And I try to tell them, like, create another page then. just for political rants, because it's not that they're angry at you, but it's false advertisement, because you're saying, I'm a singer, here's my page, and then you're not talking about singing. When I go to the burger joint, if I go to McDonald's and I walk in the door and all of a sudden the cashier is just doing a rant about politics, I'm like, well, no, I'm here for the burger. I didn't show up for that. And when people come to my page, they're not there. They're, but I do think that's the good thing about what you do is I think you can sort of train your audience, because I actually got COVID 2 months ago, something like that, 3 months ago. And I waited till it started to like simmer down. It was not fun. But when it started to simmer down, I kind of announced on social media that I had it. And hey, in my experience, seems like you should be careful out there, folks, because I was careful and da-da-da. And thank goodness I had, all the hundreds of comments, and most of them were just well wishes and not one angry rant. And I noticed that, and I thought, I trained my crowd. That's why. Nobody comes to my page for the fights. Now, you're getting such a big fan base that it's going to be tricky, because you're getting some new folks. You
can't please everybody. And then the cool thing is, it started out, it's just with church humor.
Let's back this up then. Let's really get the groundwork, because man, people, if you have not heard Kevon Carter or seen the videos, as soon as you do, you're going to binge him. You're going to binge. It's crazy. So all right. So let's get into this, because you study the ministry. You're into the church scene. You're a musician. Somehow you ended up at that gig, with me, where that was a straight up singer's gig.
So somehow,
how did that even? I guess before we get into your video, how do you get into that? Because that was maybe my only cattle call I've ever done.
I didn't know Jeff, so that came through Chris Harris. And the thing that's so interesting about that is I didn't know Chris Harris.
Oh. Okay, so folks, Chris Harris is a pastor from Chicago and just a phenomenal vocalist.
Yes.
Jeff Morrow, who we'll have on this show pretty soon, I think. He was a voiceover guy back in the days when tons of money could be made with jingles. He was that guy, and now he's a music director. He was a music director for Empire and TV shows. He's the real deal. But anyway, he had this huge McDonald's account, and Kevon and I and a few of these other guys got to be a part of it. So there's your backstory. But when I got that call, I was still trying to hustle as a singer, a full-time singer. So when you got that call, how did that work out? Because you weren't necessarily chasing that, right?
No, I wasn't singing at all. When I got the call, I was the minister of music at my church, and Pastor Chris called me, and I forgot how I forget if he saw me sing somewhere or if someone recommended me, because me and him, we didn't have a relationship like that. So yeah, it was cool. I'm glad he called.
Yeah.
And like I say, but yeah, that came out of nowhere, and I'm at church like, wow. And I asked the church if is it cool to get off to go do this? They were like, yeah, go ahead.
Man, your sound, because you ended up singing just about all of the top parts. And man, you just this velvet. Your voice, especially when you're in that high register, it was just velvety, man. It was velvety. And then we're in the midst of this super high-end, crazy experience where all of a sudden we're treated like rock stars. Again, I remember a butler bringing a tray to our trailer, and one of it had like the big silver bowl with like peanut M&Ms and stuff. Do you remember that? It was crazy.
M&Ms.
It was nuts. Like, what is going on? But you're not only that, your demeanor, man. We're all like, this is crazy. And then we had Derek Fawcett, who some of my listeners know, who remember him. He was just, we gotta go. We're gonna go see this and we're gonna see that. And I think we got free tickets to to Disney World or something, because we were on the Disney site. And after that whole day, we had like an afternoon to ourselves. Well, we might as well go again. And we're all like, oh no. But every time all of us were kind of like, let's look around. Wow, you were so chill, and I'm pretty sure you were the youngest one. Yep. And you were just, your whole idea of fun was, I'm going to chill in that room and I am going to relax.
That's just, that's my personality. When I cut the camera on, I turn into the character. Me, I'm a homebody. I guess they call it introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
you're still that guy then. You're still that.
Yeah, nothing's changed. It's and for a while it took me a while to try to find that balance. I'd have to try to respond to the messages and different things, and it just took me a while to find that balance. And then I found it's okay for me to still be me and I'm both of them.
But that's interesting because I never thought about that, because when you turn on the camera, and again, people, Kevon Carter, just look for it. It's such a character, it's such a unique character that you portray. But I mean, I didn't really think about that, because the person that I met is just just super nice guy, and you were so low key and so mellow. I gravitated toward you on that trip. Like I really, I said, cool. When we went to the airport, I grabbed you. I needed my wife to meet you. Like you gotta meet, and you were so kind. You came over, and then you were like, this was my guy. This was my guy. But everything about you was so low key.
So I'm still the same, and even the people that know me, my family, they know I can act a fool. So when I started doing the videos, they weren't surprised. But like people from church and different places, it's like, I didn't even know you were like that. You're so quiet. That's pretty much how everybody is. Except, like I say, my family, those that live with me and just know me, know it's a little twisted in his brain of mine.
It was so crazy because I can't even remember how you popped onto my Instagram feed, because we hadn't kept in touch since those days. And then I saw it, and I was just so taken by who is this guy? And it's such a captivating persona. It's captivating, and it's very easy to just binge the whole thing. You can't stop. You fall down the rabbit hole of your videos. And there's this whole kind of, what is this dude going to do next? It's the highlight of my Instagram life, because for me, Instagram and Facebook are very much, all social media for me is very much work in a way. I should watch how I word that, but it's basically, I'm going to post something, get the word out and keep my brand going or whatever. But for you, I specifically stopped to kind of see, like, what's he up to today? So, I mean, you're one of the very few social media personas that I've become a fan of,
Man, I appreciate that. I really do.
And like we talked about before this chat, I was telling you how, like, my 11-year-old daughter just cracks up at it, and she was making me, when I showed her some of the videos, she was making me go back, and to this day I still have to go back, and she has her favorites now, particularly the kids getting the shots. Those are her favorites. I always got to keep watching, but everything, there's quite a few. So for me being an older person and her being 11, and for both of us laughing so hard at these videos, that is hard to pull off.
Yeah. So and it goes back to what we were talking about when you said, like, just the vast kind of variety of people. So in some ways, I'm not gonna please everybody, because some people came to the page off a certain style of video, and then so they may not be into the church gospel stuff, but they saw me do a Baby Shark video and they started following me, or they saw me post a video of this guy clapping and they followed me, like just random stuff. I did the and I don't want to miss a day. What's the boxer? I can't believe I can't think of his name right now. He's the heavyweight champion, right? Tyson Fury.
Okay.
He sang a song to his wife after he won. I think he said, "Don't want to miss a thing," and I put music to it, and that thing, it got over 1 million views on Facebook, went viral and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
And so I got a lot of followers that way, but those followers, they don't necessarily come to the page for the church stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love it, and I like when you say that 11-year-old watches it, that blows my mind. And I've had like kids reach out to me and stuff like that just blows me away. And I told you this earlier, I'm always aware, try to make sure what I'm posting is appropriate. So even though I'm an adult and I might be talking about an adult topic, that if your kid watched it, you wouldn't be upset.
Yeah, it's funny, and the way it's affected her in particular, I get a lot of people, she'll come out and she'll see some folks that are on stadiums and doing things. And if I run into them or introduce her to anyone, she's like, yeah, she was legitimately so excited that I was having you on the show, and she was very excited to know, like, wait, okay, sorry, I should tell, Molly says hello, by the way.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say, what's her name? Molly, thank you. You have made my day.
I'm telling you.
I'm telling you, your father telling me that has been the highlight of my day, just to know that, when I get up, I'm going to tell my kids. See, if you don't appreciate me, but Molly does. And if you don't do right, I'm going to put you out and see if Robby can just send Molly over here.
What is it about that, by the way? Why is it that we can do these things, and I mean I'm in front of crowds. Sometimes it's thousands, sometimes it's hundreds, sometimes I'm in a crowd of 50. And it's working, right? And you feel like, oh, I've just captivated this crowd. That was amazing. They held on to my every word. And then you come home and you are nothing impressive. Kids are not. Yeah, they're not impressed at all. Now I will say, which is the crazy thing about social media. Now if we're out somewhere and somebody will stop me and they'll say, "Are you Kevon Carter? Hey, do you do videos? Are you that guy from YouTube?" Now if something like that happens, then my kids are kind of like, "Wow, Dad, they know you." Then they think their dad is cool for like a couple seconds. But then when we get back in the car, it's back to reality. Dad, you suck. Yeah, it's weird. That is true. I remember when she was a little bit younger at some of the concerts, when kids would come up and want autographs or whatever, then all of a sudden she was defensive too, like, well, that's my what do you want to talk to him? He's mine, but again, there's something about once you get to the car or once you get home, it's
it wears off really fast.
And I wonder if that's a gift. I wonder if that's just there to keep us grounded. I don't know.
Well, it definitely does, because I'm sure Molly is the same. They're not impressed with their dads. They're
a buddy of mine, Dave Calzaretta, who I work for a lot. He's kind of made, as a singer, he's known as being this falsetto guy, and he just prides himself in it. And he, in fact, his he idolized Eddie Kendricks, and But anyway, he's made his living with this high sound, and he's so proud of it. And then he ends up having a son. His son starts growing up, and it starts taking his son to the shows. The first time his son really spoke to him about singing, his son said, "Why do you have to sing so high all the time, man? Why did just broke down what he's honed all of his life." That's the life. All right, so here I need to break this down. So now people have gathered. If any of my listeners haven't heard of you before, now they know. You guys know that it's very comical, it's musical, it's smart, and it's accessible to all ages, all people, all walks of life. I think somebody who lives on Mars could use their magic device to look on your YouTube page and say, "Oh, that's really funny," So now that we know that, this is what I want to know. How in the world did this start? Well, I'm talking like video number one. Was it just a joke thing you wanted to do for a minute, just to amuse yourself, or was it a plan right from the get-go to, okay, let me see what I can make out of this?
I wanted to make a video kind of poking fun at people that do runs. And even today, it annoys me to, everybody does run challenges now. And so in 2015, I made a video called Runs. And my thing with I like vocal runs, but I think it's important where you place them. I think some people, they overdo them. And I think some people don't have the ability to do them, but they do them anyways.
We got to speak on this. Some people who don't have the ability to do them, but do them anyway. What cracks me up about some of those fine folks is that they tend to think that if you just move your hand a lot, that's the run. Like, their voice is very sloppily not hitting the notes, but their hand is moving, and they think that
all of that, and we place we place too much emphasis on runs. It's kind of like an NBA player that can dunk really well. Right. It's like that's great, but I mean,
Just it's like so much pageantry without any meaning behind it, as opposed to like I think Stevie Wonder is the king of making runs kind of mean something. Where he kind of, and I think Take Six too. I like a lot of what they do. But
I love runs, but like I said, I just think we've kind of stuff like tone and just the simple stuff, breathing and melody. We kind of just everything is just runs now. How many runs can you do? How fancy can you? How many know all this stuff? And like you say, when you hear people that do runs well, we forget that that's a gift in itself. And just because they can do it well doesn't mean that I can do it well. And then here I am up here trying to emulate what such and such did, and I'm making a fool out of myself.
Well, also, and you're so right too about the placement. In fact, you did a brilliant video not that long ago where you're talking about you're equating it to food and flavor.
Yes, yeah,
that
flavor,
was brilliant, and I can't remember what was it. Was it a sandwich at first? Do you remember?
I think I had a munchkin.
A munchkin, okay,
yeah. I had a munchkin from Dunkin' Donuts,
right.
And I was talking about how we can have a great song. It's already a great song. Now it's my job to deliver it and sing it. The lyrics are it's already a great song, but then here I am with my runs, and then I think I made the runs like syrup or something.
You had had so many condiments there, and each one represented a run.
Right. Yeah. So different. Yeah. Just
the way you did that though, with the way like, okay, so I'm just gonna add a little this, or maybe a little falsetto, and you kept pouring a different ingredient, and by the end of it, the whole thing was covered just with gunk.
Yeah. It was a mess.
And then you take a bite of it like you're listening to the song, conceptually, and the face you make, and that point though of keeping it tasteful and not overdo it. That was so brilliant, and it was hilarious, and man. Okay, so one of the early things you did was something on runs. That was kind of one of the.
It was runs. Runs. I think the words were runs are optional. They are nothing that you have to do. Just because you hear your favorite singer do them doesn't mean they're meant for you. And it was like a jingle, and I put music to it. And when I put it out, I just posted it on my personal page.
Yeah.
And it went viral. It started going everywhere. People kept sharing it. And of course, on Facebook, if your stuff gets shared a lot, you get all of these friend requests. And I couldn't get any more friend requests. So I'm like, wow, okay. So I ended up, and I think at the time I was going to put out a CD or something. So I started a artist page.
Okay.
And eventually I think I started putting the videos on there, because I was putting the videos on my personal page, but they kept growing, and and the people would be like, "Oh, that was funny. Post another one." Okay. So I'll post another one. I think another one I was kind of making fun of a preacher who's a prophet, but he's a prophet. He's a liar, but he calls himself a prophet, and just little stuff like that. But they kept growing and growing, and that's how it started.
When you're doing it at that point, you're just having fun.
Oh, it's just a labor of love, just fun, sitting at home, set the cell phone up. Let's see what I can do. And there were no plans to be a social media star, and I'm not a social media star now, to be clear. But
let me double up on your clarification. He's totally a social media star, people. So I'm just debunking what he just said right now. You're definitely you're an online celebrity, man. Whether you want to realize that or not, it's true.
Man.
But I'm fascinated by this, because when it becomes something that starts to grow, when does your mindset change a little bit on it? When do you realize that, this might be a product as well? Like when?
It took a while.
Really?
Like I never.
Did you just see it growing and growing and growing before you even put that line of thought to it?
Yeah, it was growing and growing. And then, like I said, I started putting my videos on the artist page, and then people started following the page, and it's growing. And I don't think I'm having fun. I'm having fun. It was just fun for me. And then I started seeing it as a place where I could use it to teach through humor. So like you talked about the skit with the Munchkin. It's a funny skit, but it's also like it's a teaching.
It's such a great vocal lesson, and it's taught in a better way than I've ever heard. You know.
So that was one of my intents after a while, like even through some of the stuff that's just straight silly, like to kind of show people like what not to do or just different things, and so there could be like an underlying message and stuff. And it like I said, it just kept going and going. It was never to be popular, never to get, this amount of followers, or never to try to make any money. It was just for fun.
So then at some point, do you see, there's potential here first with like Instagram? Like when do you jump into Instagram then?
I jumped into Instagram.
Did you say YouTube was maybe the last thing you ended up doing?
Yeah, YouTube was hard. YouTube is hard. YouTube is hard to crack. But if you can get it, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. But I would say Facebook, I was doing Facebook. And then I noticed a lot of people doing Instagram. And I'm like, I don't feel like doing another page. So I did Instagram, and that was hard. And I mean, and any site, any place you start, it sucks at the beginning because, especially when you're used to your views on one site. So like my Facebook stuff, I'm used to this amount of people. I post something on Instagram. 2 people are watching, and that's my mom and my auntie. Like, where's everybody else at? Where's Molly? Somebody call Molly and tell her watch this. So yeah, it's that's with anything, with the social media, and whether it's music or comedy, whatever you're promoting. I've learned that you just have to be consistent and keep going, because it can be so disappointing and defeating when you look at them numbers.
Yeah.
and even like musically, we release singles and release music, and it feels so good when you put out new music and you're so hyped up, and you put that cover on Instagram, and all your friends are like, oh, congrats Robby, congrats Kevon, we're gonna buy it. And it's like, okay, this is it, this is the one. And then you put it out, and then you check your stats on Spotify and on iTunes, and like 4 people listened to it, 1 person bought it, and it's like,
yeah.
Yeah, but you just keep going. You keep going, and at the end of the day, if it's something that you enjoy, something that you love, you're passionate about, and so that's what kept me going. It was the fact that it was never about trying to be anything. I enjoyed doing it. So yeah.
Well, that's huge, man. And then at some point, when do you start to realize that, I can monetize this? Does that happen with Instagram first?
And I'm still new to this stuff.
Sure.
The monetized stuff, but I learned I could monetize even beyond social media. I started getting invites to do comedy. Like, can you come do comedy for such and such? We'll fly you out to do this. We'll fly. And I'm like, I'm a church musician. I'm not going to do comedy. So after a while, I kept realizing I was turning stuff down, and I'm like, okay. And people would always encourage me, like, come on, but you say you're not this and that, but you're naturally this or that. You're naturally this, and I'm like, well, I don't see it, but whatever. So, and I ended up, I went to a Second City. I took a comedy class there. I took a comedy class online.
What did that do for you? Like when you
Well, just to learn the art of it and everything, because it's easy to and you got to understand, I respect the comedy game, so I understand that me getting in front of a camera and editing a 30-second 1 minute video, that's different than going to a bar or going to a club and doing a 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute set of comedy. Those are two totally different things.
Right.
And I've seen social media comedians that I watched their videos and they were funny, and then I watched them on stage do a comedy set, and it's like, they're not funny. and it's because those are two totally different lanes. So I'm like, I'm not gonna just sit up here and say, oh yeah, let me get up here and just do that. No, let's sit down and learn. Go watch some people. So yeah, that's what I did. And
I'll tell you what, man, I don't want to sound like the grumpy old man on a rocking chair saying, oh, the kids today, but I do feel like a lot of people assume too much and then dive into things without properly training themselves like that. Mm-hmm. And that's so impressive that you thought, okay, well, wait a minute. I recognize this is a different skill set. I know I'm funny over here, but that doesn't mean I'm great at everything. And I've seen people do that where they do one thing pretty well and they assume they could do a million things. And you got to break it down. And because now you're talking potentially more improv. And that's to me, that's the big difference. Is both are very hard, but one that you're doing right now is you're preparing, and you've got to create that funny, and then find it and edit it and present it. But then when you're flying out somewhere, you're feeding off of a crowd. They're feeding off of you.
Yeah, it's different. Now I have, we of course we have that experience of being in front of a crowd. So when we get in front of people, we're fine.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, I wasn't worried about that. But like I say, I've seen people on social media, their stuff is hilarious, and then I see them do stand up. It's like, what happened? What?
So I'm very curious. What did you feel like you were bringing to the table then the first time you ended up saying yes to some of these gigs where you're flying out or you're going on site somewhere and suddenly, you are not on the screen. You're live. What did you change, or what skills were you using? What's that guy doing? What is live and in person Kevon doing?
It's a mixture. I use, because a lot of times people want me to kind of reenact my skits, but I have to tell them, like, some of that stuff is hard because that stuff is edited, and I don't have a voice, I don't have extra people and all this different, so, but I try to do what I can. So you're going to get some keyboard humor. I'm going to have a song that's probably silly some kind of way. And then you'll probably get, the other half will be kind of more of the traditional stand-up way. But I try to mix it all together. So people still get some of that social media Kevon, because I know people like the piano, people like the songs, so I try to make sure at least half you're going to get some of that somewhere, but then you're going to get some of the traditional, what a stand-up comedian does as well.
That's interesting, man, because you could probably build an entire live show that's really marketable off of that, whether you're creating something maybe that's catering to whatever company's hiring you, or whether maybe you're asking them, okay, who's important, who do you want maybe to bring on stage, and let me do something with them, and it's just so interesting. There's a lot of directions for somebody like you, because you have a lot of your utility belt is pretty full.
Utility belt.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like I say, I wanted to take some classes so I knew how to know how to use the belt properly.
That is so interesting.
Like I said, I respect the comedy game, and I've seen a lot of people. Those are two different lanes, so I want to make sure I was as prepared as I could be.
That might be the one place you get a little. I don't know if you do get nervous there, but that is the one place where, because most of my stuff is improv, so now I'm getting asked to do, because of the podcast and other things, to do taped things and scripted things. So I'm going like the opposite direction of you, and it's interesting because it's a different muscle, and you're so comfortable over here in the one place that when you get over there, you're starting to think, oh boy, okay, is this going to work? I think it's going to work, but you don't have that tried and true formula because it hasn't been done enough, Exactly.
So yeah, and that's the thing. Singing, if somebody needs you to sing in live, you can do that in your sleep.
Yeah.
And it's the same with me with playing the piano and different things. But the stand-up comedy, or even me with being the youth pastor, that's different lanes. So yeah, it's and you're going to take some L's. You're going to take some losses and have some learning experiences. But it's all good. It's all good.
Man, your mindset is so complete, man. It's just as good as it gets. That's the mindset that you have, a winner's mindset.
That comes from a lot of losing. I got a lot of experience losing, but yeah, I learned if you could take those L's and you can, I mean, they could just be losses and you can cry more, but if you learn from them and make them lessons, and learn from them, that's it. It'll just keep taking you higher. So even with the losses, I go back in the same way it has when because I'm a sports fan. So the team you lose. They always say we're going to go back and review the game film. And I go back and look at what I did, and it's like, okay, this didn't work. This was horrible. Let me take this out. Let me try this. And you just keep trying. You come back, try it again.
Man, I'll tell you, you're a rare breed because, again, we live in a world where I think people spend too much time celebrating the wins. Mm-hmm. And not looking close enough at the losses,
Ooh,
like they don't want to hear that. They don't want to even think about the loss, and then they don't improve.
Man, see now you gonna make me get in my preacher mode now. See that you
do it.
You taking me somewhere with
Ladies
that, Robby.
Now. Preach.
But yeah, it's those losses, man. I'm telling you, and like marital losses, relationship losses, parenting losses. I mean, they totally suck. And when you're in it and you feel like trash, you feel horrible. But if you can learn from it, and you look at, when you kind of look back on things like, man, had that not have happened, I never would have done this, or this never would have happened. And so yeah, it's
if people have the courage to look closely at their losses, then the losses are totally going to equate to a win. But they have to have that courage,
that courage. And own it, because we don't like to own it. We want to blame everybody else or be in denial. But own it and be like, this is me. I messed up. This is my L.
I went to see Hall & Oates live. I remember Daryl Hall totally screwing up a lyric. And he was, and it was one of those kind of quiet moments where the whole band came down, and he's having this serious moment, and then he just screwed up his lyric, and right when it happened, the dude just laughed. He just laughed at himself, and he laughed at the moment, and the whole crowd laughed.
I was about to say, and everybody else, yep.
I get chills thinking about it because that set in motion a mindset for me to just call myself out on stage. So now if I make a mistake or I do anything wrong, I just call it out because you're beating the crowd to the punch, and you're also letting your crowd kind of get this inside peek. Now they feel like insiders. When I was singing with a younger girl who's amazing. She's constantly learning. But I do this thing on stage where, I'm doing almost 200 shows a year sometimes. And in the midst of that, you start experimenting a lot. And no matter how much you know about music or ad-libbing, after a while, you're going to try something that you've never tried before. And it's just wrong. I'll just try an ad-lib and it's just, and then I would say on the mic, choices,
That's right.
and she gets a kick out of that. And we do that all the time if one of us go there. And one time we were doing a show. Before the show, we did like this Q&A with the crowd, and they were just asking for a little behind the scenes stuff. Or do you guys, talk to each other, much? And then I mentioned the choices thing, and I remember the singer, she got a little upset. She's like, "Whoa, don't tell them our things, And I'm like, no. Now, because we followed up with a hand motion too. We're like, choices, So sometimes if we're in the middle of a song and it happens, we just do that. And we both know you were joking about our mistake. Yeah. And I told her, like, right now that we shared that, now these 50 people or whatever, they're going to come back to the shows, they're going to see that, and they're in the know, and they're going to remember this little tidbit, and they're going to feel special because they're going to know something that the rest of the audience doesn't know. And all we're really doing is we're taking our faults and making them our strengths by doing that, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's so much strength in showing weakness, you know what I mean?
And people we don't like to show that we're human.
Yeah.
But I mean, people, you actually appreciate it when you find out that somebody's not perfect. Like, what? Like when you just said that you hit a wrong, I said, not you, Robby, you too. you mess up. It's like, wow. So yeah, I mean, yeah, you actually, yeah, you appreciate, and I can receive better from somebody if I know they're not just so way up here. Yeah. And that they have problems and they mess up too and different things. So yeah, we sometimes we're too, you know, we want to act like we got it all together. But yeah, those L's, and like you said, you can use them, you can make fun of them and all that kind of stuff. So
the funny thing is sometimes we're always searching for ways to expand our show, and sometimes something as simple as making fun of yourself when you mess up is giving you another tool in the utility belt. So now you got a whole other aspect to your show, and more people are going to enjoy that, because after a while it gets boring just to see the perfect dude be perfect. The perfect singer just be perfect. Show me the dude that is perfect, or the girl that's perfect, but then when they mess up, they laugh it off, and I'm laughing. Like, I'm going to enjoy that so much more because it has layers. It's like watching a good movie with stories, and, you know, either that or maybe you and I are just convincing ourselves right now that it's okay to suck. I don't know. Maybe.
No, hey, well, it does. It makes you more relatable, because it's like, wow, like I like you more now since I know you've hit some wrong notes.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Yeah. I'm like, wow, I didn't know. Robby really is human. This is awesome.
I was gonna have coffee with him, but now we can have dinner, maybe lunch. You know, now I know the bad notes. Well, so this is what's interesting too, man, is when you're starting to realize that this is becoming a thing. I still want to break down the brilliance of your comedy, though. Once you realize, okay, I'm having fun, but now this is turning into something where I want to deliver these goods, you know, weekly or however often you're doing it. How are you building that? Because it started off definitely church heavy, and and I loved it because it was so accessible. You know, I've never been a minister, and I'd never been somebody who led a band in a church, but you made it so accessible so that anybody could understand it. And you found the tricky thing in life. My favorite thing about the comedic mind is somebody who can just look at life and find the funny, you know, and you managed to you find the funny in all these moments. So when you're doing that, when it becomes something that you're going to start doing, you know, continuously, how are you building it? Are you looking around? You know, like how did you create some of these parts? And let's start at the beginning. You know, when it was more or less church heavy.
Well, church heavy was easy because it was, and even now I would say I won't say easy, but I guess for me, like you said, I find humor in everything. I can, and that gets me in trouble sometimes because some stuff that's not funny. But some stuff is just, I can find humor in anything. I can find some humor. And so with the church stuff, it was just life experiences. If you go to church, there's funny stuff that happens all of the time.
But you have to find a delivery, and that's the thing. You can spot the funny.
So you're trying to figure out how to approach it.
You're approaching it. You know, not only that, but you have a very specific voice, and I'm always fascinated by people who figure out how they're molding their delivery, because you have a delivery, and I think you've even figured out, like, there are a couple things that the fans, you know, again, you and I became fast friends, but I'm a fan, and let me tell you something. Man. There are those, you know, back when I was a little kid, and Happy Days would come on or Good Times would come on. Every time, you know, the character Fonzie did the A, or every time, you know, JJ did the Dynamite, it was a big deal, and you laughed every time. You know, when Little Arnold did What You Talking About, Willis, I laughed every time. Well, same thing with you. Every time, all I need to do is hear this, and I am laughing every time. So I mean, you find those moments, but how are you have to refine your message. You have to find what's funny, and then create this tight message. How did you learn to do that?
Yeah, that just came. That just came naturally. Just the character. Like when that camera cuts on, I go into this mode, because then I get comments sometimes. How did you do that without laughing? And it's, for me, it's not fun. Like I'm not struggling to laugh. Like this, I'm in my mode, and all those little things I say, they just come. But I notice, I learn from reading the comments. So if you read the comments, and you'll see somebody say like, because one of the things people say now, they'll say like, it's the laugh for me, or it's the way he did this for me, or so after a while you kind of like, okay, they like when I do this, or they think when this is funny. Like sometimes if a singer is singing, I'll say, show your range, and I notice people like they'll put that in the comments. So like usually if I'm doing a video and I'm accompanying a singer, I'm going to say that at some point. Show your range. I felt that. They're just little catchphrases that I'll say. And again, I know that they've caught on because I'll look in the comments, and it's like, okay, that's all right. So yeah.
It's so clever. Well, and then at some point, again, one of the things that makes you so unique, when you start finding ways to take a moment where somebody's getting a shot at the doctor and they scream in a funny way, or the lady who was trying to get sympathy even though she broke into a place and I got maced. Where did that idea come from to suddenly put chords behind these sounds that people aren't singing, they're making sounds, and then you turn them into songs?
Well, at one point I was doing new videos every day, so I'm just trying to think of what to do, and so I'm like, okay, and I forget which was the very first one I kind of did that with, but yeah, if it's speaking, or if I'll take and make music out of anything. And so I've had, when people get a shot, if they scream, I'll make a song out of that. I've done, like you say, that I Got Maced girl. There was a video, I forgot, there's a video I posted recently. This lady, she's just boo-hooing and she's crying, and I made a whole song behind her. And you find the pitch to where they're singing or crying, and
then you add harmonies.
Yeah, I'll put harmonies. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of stuff. It just depends. Well, it depends on what they're doing, and it just kind of depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Because I can really get intricate with. Because the harmonies, it just takes time.
Yeah.
When you recording yourself, you think of it, and then once you start adding layered harmonies and stuff, it just takes more time. But yeah, I could really get, and I've done it before, just, I get really carried away with some of those arrangements, but I enjoy doing it. It's fun. Now the funny thing is, because I do dogs barking, I've done all kind of stuff, but the downside to that is, like, people send me videos all the time, but it'll be like a baby crying for 2 seconds. So they're like, you got to use this one. This is my daughter. And then I click play. That's it. It's like, what? I mean, come on, give me something to work with here.
Now, are they sending you stuff? How are they send? Do they email you? Or are they just direct messaging you? Or
so yeah, that's a lot of and many of the people you see on social media when they're posting content, a lot of the content they have, it comes from people that follow them. They're sending them content.
Great.
So like, if people see something that happened at church or happened at their church, they'll inbox it to me. Or if it's their church, they'll inbox it to me. Be like, hey, don't say you got it from me. Don't. This is my church. Don't say you got it from me. But you can go ahead and post this. This is funny. You'll get or. Like I got one today from somebody. It was a dog barking. Kevon, you should look at this one. I think you can use this one. So yeah, pretty much, probably half of the stuff I use is or maybe even a little more than that. It comes from suggestions.
That's amazing.
From other people,
Where do you prefer to receive those from people? For any
I get them.
listeners,
I would prefer email, but I get them inbox, email. I don't check my inbox too much as much as I should, but inbox, email, I get them all kind of. Yeah, so
it's amazing, man. And again, it's such a gift. Like you have one of the most unique comedic voices I've heard. And I think that's why the crowd keeps growing for you, because it's unique. You know, it's unique and it's good. And I can't believe your consistency, because I like sometimes I like what they do on SNL sometimes. And then sometimes I don't, right? I've seen entire shows where they have me laughing the whole show, and then I've seen some shows where the entire show there's not one hit, you know. And for you to do so much more, you know, and I know yours are shorter form, but the consistency, the numbers still add up, and the fact that your little vignettes are just so much funnier, but the consistency, that's what kills me, man. I mean,
oh man, I appreciate, and I look at myself, I'm like, oh, you got to do better, and now I don't post nearly as much as I used to, just because I got so much going on right now, so I'm trying to find a balance of it. But even when I post, like, I could try to just throw something up there, but I don't want, like you just said, like, oh man, Kevon, this was kind of weak, bro. What you?
That's awesome.
You know,
man.
So if I post one video in a week, I want to make sure that video counts, and it's something that I think people will gravitate to. And there are times I get it wrong. I'm getting better. I mean, and it just takes time. You kind of know what people want to see, and sometimes you got to find that balance, because there's the stuff that you want to post, or the stuff that you think is funny, but that might not be exactly what they think is funny. So you gotta find that balance. Okay, well, today I'm gonna post this. This is what I feel that's in my heart, but I know this is not going to get a lot of views.
Yeah, I guess
you gotta be okay with that, you know.
I guess what gets tricky too is, you have to constantly evolve as well, because if you sit into just that comfort zone of, okay, here now I've got this bag of tricks and I know it's always going to work, but then at the same time you have to fight. Yeah. That's got to be the tricky side, huh? Like, okay, here's a joke I haven't tried yet. Mm-hmm. Let me throw it out there.
You have to constantly reinvent yourself.
Yeah, and you're in a trickier spot than like a comedian, because you hear about comedians who just hit the stage. They go to all the small clubs and they workshop. Mm-hmm. They'll go to some out of the way club, and then they can suck and keep fixing it. Where your stuff, there's no way to try it until it's out.
Yeah. I don't know. I used to kind of run stuff. Yeah, if anybody sees my stuff, it's my wife. She'll just kind of preview it, and usually the only reason she's looking at something is if I think something might be weird volume-wise, or if I think like I might be saying something that might be a little too risky. Like, you think this is too much?
Right.
But other than that, you don't know until you put it out and you see those comments or the lack thereof. And it's like, okay, they didn't think that was funny, or they didn't like that one, or, so. And after a while, the good thing is, and I mean, I still look at the stuff, but hopefully you get to a point where you're not just so caught up in those numbers. Because, if you get caught up in those numbers, it can be, when they're good, you're up here. But when they're low, oh, man, it's like, oh, God.
I'm so glad you're mentioning that, because I know a few people that have gone viral with different things, and I've seen some people, some folks have shared with me their stories about having to just shut it off and not even look at the numbers, because after a while it's almost like a weird drug in a way, and you gotta.
Oh yeah, it is. It could get you. I mean, I remember there have been days where like a post didn't go as well, and not that I was in a bad mood, but I just noticed I wasn't all. But then I noticed if a post was really well, like, today is a great day, praise the Lord, It's like, what is wrong with you, So, so now I don't pay it, and so that's why I don't check the inbox too much. I don't do this and that too much, checking at all the numbers. It's nice when it does well, but if it doesn't, oh well. You know, you just keep going. And again, still, I'm having fun. I'm doing what I love. And yeah, so
it's so genuine.
all good.
It's so genuine, and I think that's what makes me laugh the hardest, because I can tell that you're having fun, and
Yeah.
you know, and the same thing. My daughter Molly and I will both laugh like, this dude's crazy. Look at what he's doing. Like you turn the world into your playground. You know,
It's fun. It's almost therapeutic for me. Like, so it's something I can do to get my little silliness out, and I can just laugh. And for me, to know, like you said, Molly is watching, or you said you laughed, or if I get a message that said, I mean, I was having a rough day, that video just brought tears to my eyes. Like I was crying, laughing, thank you, and this and that. Like that stuff, that's like food for me. That fuels me. I love money, but that's better than money. When you get that stuff, and they say, oh man, that blessed me. And again, this is humor. This is not even, Jesus is a rock. You need to get saved today. Or this is humor. And you just kind of, through jokes or through music, to know that something you're doing has been a bright spot to somebody's day. That's that's awesome.
Are you in a place similar to like a comedy writer? You know, are you sometimes looking at the world and now, is it a combination of like, oh, this is funny, but then is there also a constant line of thought where you're thinking, oh, this would be good for the show, or this would be good for the, you know, do you find yourself kind of falling in that line of thought a lot, where suddenly everything becomes potential fodder?
I had just started kind of getting out in the stand-up stuff 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So 2019, I was getting out there, getting my feet wet. 2020, I had some more stuff coming up. COVID shut it all down. So, excuse me. So as far as for the show, no, that's not a problem for me, because I'm not really doing anything. Everything I do pretty much is social media based.
But I meant even for your videos. Do you find yourself sometimes, a couple times a day seeing something and you can't turn it off? Like,
okay. I see that. Not as much recently, just because I've had so much on my mind. But yeah, I'm always just anything can come to my mind, or I could be doing something with my son. I'm like, oh, this would be. I'll write this down. Like, you got, make sure you put this, little ideas. So yeah, the mind is always constantly working, and sometimes I have nothing in mind. I have nothing funny. I have nothing to say, and I'll just come sit down at the keyboard, and I'll just play till something comes. And it's like, okay, I'll do that. So yeah, it's interesting. And sometimes I get inspiration just from looking at social media, seeing what other people are talking about. And some days there's nothing, but that's how it flows.
So is there something still on the bucket list? Is there something you'd still like to accomplish in years to come?
In years to come?
Or it could be months, or right after this podcast.
You know what? That's a good question, man. I'm just trying to get out of debt, man. I'm just trying to pay off the IRS and the student loans.
Right. Yeah.
No, but I hate to get deep on you, but yeah, I'm just. They say in church, wherever God leads me, I'll follow, and that's just kind of where I am. I'm just trying to. I say and then as you get older, as I get older, like you see people our age checking out, leaving here, and it's like, so for me, like no matter what I do, I just want to be light. I just want to be a light, and I don't care if that's at church, if that's at a comedy club, if that's at Best Buy, at the grocery store. I just want to be a light and be a blessing as long as I'm here.
Yeah, it shows too, man. I mean, it seems like you genuinely care about what you leave behind to a person that you encounter. Like you want to leave some kind of piece of joy with people. It just seems like that's what you and who you are.
Yeah, that's my that's it. When I pray every day, when I'm in my prayer, Lord, just just let me be light. Just let me be light. Let me be a light. Let me be a blessing to somebody. Hopefully.
Well, it appears to me that you've surpassed that, and now you keep walking away getting loved. You know, that's what seems to happen, man. And man, your entire body of work and your entire persona is just like a textbook lesson for how to live within the arts, without the arts, just in life, man. It's interesting. I'm so glad we had to talk because, man, so much of what you are is like the perfect guidebook for being a person, for being a person who can not get sort of sidetracked by smaller thoughts that aren't really worthy of our time and that can kind of get us off path of being true to ourselves.
This is where I am now. I've have years of experience with being sidetracked.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though. I mean, I think that's so impressive. I'm always surprised when I find someone who has a lot of these, these thoughts that maybe they should outgrow. Whether it's ego. Again, we didn't really chat on ego too much, but I think we're all aware of what ego, especially within the performing arts world, can do to a person.
Oh, Lord. Yes.
It's tricky, But when I see somebody in their 40s with it, I'm always shocked. When I see somebody in their 20s with it, I
understand.
I feel like, okay, I went through that, and hopefully you're going to outgrow it. When I see late 20s or 30s, I start looking at it sideways, like, ooh, I don't know if that's going to get taken care of. You should get that looked at.
Right.
But then when I see someone in their 40s, it kind of makes me really nod my head, like, oh no, they might be hopeless. Like, I don't know if they'll ever learn because they don't want to learn by that age.
Oh, yeah. Then you see them when they're 65. They still got it.
Yeah, and it's surprising to me. And what I always try to tell people who will listen is that if you're thinking about attention from a crowd, or you're thinking about just your own personal ego, you're basically digging a hole that you will never fill, never. And even if you manage to fill it for a small amount of time, it'll go away, and then you're left with nothing. You're left with this empty feeling that should not even exist. And instead of just looking within yourself and finding the joy in everything you do, find the funny, find the happy, now you're complete.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same mindset I have anytime I'm on stage. I always say, instead of just trying to cater to a crowd, my whole mindset is, I'm having a party up here. I'm having as much fun as possible. You are invited. But if you don't want to partake, that's okay. I know I'm going to walk away with a smile on my face because I gave it my all and I had a blast.
And when you do that, instead of you saying, come on, everybody, come on. You don't even have to do that. You just do what you just said. Like you said, you're having fun. Yeah. And they're going to want to join you. Yeah. They want to come along. So, yeah, you're right.
Oh man, well, I'm so glad we got to do this. Not only man. It's just a long time coming. I mean, it's been too long since we've just hung out and chatted. Anyway,
long time.
But on top of that, how often do either one of us get like this kind of time to just sit and do nothing but talk? It's hard to find this kind of time. That's the gift of this show.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, man, you are just, you're a gift to anybody that comes across or that crosses your path. And I'm so glad we have this documented, because this is going to be a teachable podcast for anyone that wants to try to just do it right, and every time every time you focus on the losses too, man, it just highlights why you're a winner, because you really are, so man, I can't be more thankful to you. It was nice to get you on here because I was fascinated by what you do and impressed, but to get under the layers to see what you're all about. Man, this is somebody should just transcribe this thing and sell it as a book. Maybe that's our next move.
Hey, let's do it.
Let's do it. I'm gonna get my people on that right away.
Yeah, get your people on it, man. Have your people call my people.
We'll do that. Cut to just you and I with a couple of crayons. Like, what did he say? But man, anyway, so I really thank you for doing this.
Man, look, and I don't ever really do these, man. But when Robby, I gotta do it, man. So man, I'm tongue-tied. I'm so full right now. But no, man, I really appreciate you, man, having me on, man. And, we go back, and so this is a pleasure.
Yeah, man. So, folks, find Kevon Carter. Find him everywhere. Just Google him, and a lot of cool stuff will pop up. Is there anything you'd like me to tell them to point to in particular to find you? Or
nah. Just, if you put in Kevon Carter, you'll see a guy with long hair playing the piano.
Folks,
that's about it.
Yeah, folks, if you're unsure, as soon as you hear, you'll know you get to the right place. You are a gift, man. Thank you so much.
Man.
And the next time you and I do this, it's going to be somewhere, with a cup of coffee in hand, just chilling outside. When life.
You gotta bring Molly.
She will kill me if I don't. All right. Well, thank you for everything, man. Thank you so much.
Man.
People, you know him now. You love him. Go find him. And what a gift. Kevon Carter, everybody. Everybody, have a great month. Have a great week. Have a great day. Go out and find your smile. That's how I close every show. Man, thanks for doing this.
Oh, man. My pleasure.
Psst. Hey, folks. Instead of playing my usual outro song, I thought I'd give you a taste of my brand new single, This I Will. Available wherever you find music. Hope you like it.
How can I prove how much I'm loving you? What can I do? Tell me what you need. Your wishes I will heed. This I will do. Oh, I'll write you a love song using your name. Tell you that the stars in your eyes are the same. Oh, this I will do. This I will do. Everything I do is for you. Oh, this I will do. Tonight I hold you in my arms and thrill you with my charms. Oh, it's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. When the morning comes, I'll shade you from the sun. Until your dream is done. There's nothing I wouldn't do. The story stays the same as the years roll away. You'll always have my love till you die. You'll always have my love. Now this I will do. Oh, this I will do. Oh, I will do anything for you. Oh, this I will do. Everything I do, oh, everything I do.